I was under the kitchen sink when it happened. Just me, a flashlight, and a leaking pipe that wouldn't stop whining. I had one hand wrapped around a wrench, the other trying to steady myself on the cold tile. And then I heard it. A voice. Her voice. Muffled, serious, coming from just above me through the floor vent. He's not the man I thought he was, Margot. I'm done. Like, really done. I just haven't told him yet. I froze. Like my body didn't know what to do with the sound. The wrench slipped and banged hard against the copper pipe. Silence upstairs. Then footsteps. Slow. Careful. Coming toward the vent. And then, nothing. She didn't call my name. Didn't check the stairs. Just quiet. As if she was hoping she imagined the sound. As if I wasn't down there. But I was. On the floor, covered in rust water and heartbreak. My name is Noah Hartley. I'm 41. I work remote tech support from the attic of the house we bought together 6 years ago. I'm the fix-it guy. Quiet. Solid. The type who sets reminders for oil changes and folds the laundry while watching old baseball clips on mute. Her name is Jessa. We've been married 10 years. No kids. Just a rescue cat we both pretend to love more than we actually do. We live just outside of Boulder, Colorado, in one of those quiet subdivisions where everyone waves but nobody really talks. The kind of place where the lawns are perfect and the secrets are silent. Looking back, I should have known something was off. Jessa had been different for a while. Smiled with her lips, not her eyes. Always tired. Always scrolling. She'd lie next to me at night with her phone glowing up her face like a ghost. She said it helped her fall asleep. I didn't believe it. But I said nothing. Because that's what I do. I fix things. Quietly. After that morning, I didn't bring it up. Didn't ask who Margot was. Didn't ask what done meant. What was I supposed to say? Hey babe, just overheard you emotionally checking out of our marriage through the air duct while I was elbows deep in moldy pipe water. No. I kept it in. Swallowed it. Like I always do. But something changed in me. I started writing things down. Not on my phone. In a real notebook. A little black one I kept in the junk drawer under the phone charger and expired coupons. I wrote down things she said that felt sharp. Moments she came home late from book club still wearing full makeup. The day her phone location was off all morning, then magically turned back on at 2:13 p.m., in a parking lot she'd never mentioned. I wasn't building a case. I was trying to prove to myself that I wasn't going insane. Then came the comments. The little stabs hidden inside compliments. Noah, you're so reliable. Like a fridge. You're comfortable. Like a good pair of socks. You're safe. Safe. As if that were an insult. I wanted to shout, that's what love is supposed to feel like, isn't it? But I didn't. I just nodded. And made her tea the way she liked it, with almond milk and 1 drop of honey. She didn't drink it. I even downloaded the meditation app she liked. Started waking up early to walk with her before work. But she always had a reason not to go. Too tired. Too cold. Already running late. She had already left me. She just hadn't packed a bag yet. And then came Wednesday night. She walked into the living room while I was folding a hoodie and said, Noah, I think I'm done. No build-up. No tears. No yelling. Just that. Like she was done with a podcast episode. I looked up at her. Held her eyes. And said, okay. She tilted her head. That's it? I nodded. No speech. No begging. I'd already packed a small duffel bag 3 days earlier. I picked it up from the coat closet. Took my notebook. And walked out. Didn't slam the door. Didn't ask for keys. Jessa didn't follow me. Didn't call out. Maybe she thought I was bluffing. But I wasn't. Because she never saw it coming. I checked into the Pine Court Inn just off Highway 93. It smelled like old carpet, cheap cologne, and waffles no one had made in a week. Perfect. The woman at the front desk didn't ask questions. She handed me a plastic key card and a paper cup for the vending machine. No questions. No pity. It was the most peaceful interaction I'd had in months. That first night wasn't freedom. It was grief. I lay on that scratchy motel bed staring at the ceiling, not thinking, just remembering. The time Jessa laughed so hard on our road trip to Flagstaff that she spit coffee all over the dash. The way she used to hum while brushing her hair. How she once told me I made her feel still, and meant it as a compliment. I didn't cry. I just felt replaced. And I wasn't even sure by who. The next morning, motel coffee tasted like burnt pennies. I had 12 missed calls. None from Jessa. 3 from my mom. 2 from my coworker Alex. The rest, numbers I didn't recognize. No text from her. Not even a "where are you?" Just silence. I didn't go to work. I called in and said it was a family emergency. Technically, it was. A whole marriage had flatlined. That counts, right? Instead, I drove to Calder's Books, this quiet little shop Jessa and I used to go to before we stopped doing things together. It still smelled like dust and peppermint oil. I sat in the back corner with a book I didn't read and watched couples browse shelves like they were choosing futures. Somewhere in the noise of pages turning and soft indie music, I realized I had no idea who I was without her. And I hated how much I missed a woman who didn't even look back when I walked out the door. That night, I opened my black notebook again. But I didn't write about Jessa. I wrote about me. About all the ways I went quiet when I should have spoken. All the dinners I made after she forgot our anniversary, and I pretended it didn't hurt. The way she'd laugh at a text from her coworker Evan, and I'd smile like it meant nothing. I wrote about the day I stopped recognizing myself. Not because she left. But because I had let myself disappear long before she did. A few days later, I drove past our neighborhood. Didn't turn in. I parked 2 blocks away and just watched. Her car was in the driveway. Same spot. Porch light off even though it was already dark. I wasn't hoping for anything. I just needed to see it. The house. My house. Still standing. Still functioning. Like my absence didn't matter. Then something happened. A car pulled into the driveway. Not a rideshare. Not a delivery guy. A gray Lexus. Tinted windows. Headlights on a little too long. I sat up in my seat. The door opened. A man in a blazer stepped out. Late 40s. Confident walk. He didn't knock. He typed in the code on the keypad Jessa and I had installed last year. The door opened. And she let him in. No hesitation. No looking over her shoulder. Like this wasn't the first time. I don't know how long I sat there after that. Minutes. Maybe hours. My stomach twisted, but my mind was calm. Because I wasn't surprised. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't a breakdown. This was routine. She hadn't slipped. She had transitioned. But here's what Jessa didn't know. I'd already been working. I'd frozen the joint savings account. Called the bank and transferred all automatic payments back to my personal card. Started emailing a lawyer from my work laptop. She thought I was gone. But I was just moving off stage. And I was taking the lights with me. The next morning, I moved into a short-term co-working space downtown. Jessa never knew about it. She thought I worked from home, still holed up in the attic like always. But I'd rented the space a week before I left. Because even before that sentence under the vent, I knew something was breaking. And I needed a place to build something else. There, in that quiet glass office with the cheap espresso machine and gray carpet, I laid everything out. Printed screenshots of our shared accounts. Copies of texts she forgot to delete from our synced iPad. A copy of the prenup she never bothered to reread. And the notebook. Pages and pages of the last year of my silence. I wasn't building a war. I was building an exit strategy. One I could walk through without raising my voice. That night, I sent the first message to Jessa since I'd left. We need to talk. Pick the place. Public only. 15 minutes later, she replied. What about River and Rye? Tomorrow at 6. Of course. Our old brunch spot. Neutral ground. Cozy lighting. Nostalgia on tap. She wanted control. She wanted me soft. The next day, I walked in right on time. She was already seated. Hair curled. Nails done. Wearing the scarf I got her in Chicago 3 winters ago. She looked at me like I was late to a conversation she'd already started in her head. Hey, she said. Thanks for coming. I nodded. No handshake. No smile. Just sat down. I didn't expect you to leave like that, she said. You said you were done, I replied. Yeah, but I thought we'd talk through it. You know, logistics. Like the man in the Lexus. Her jaw didn't drop. Jessa was always smooth. But her eyes twitched. Just for a second. You've been spying. No. I've been paying attention. She didn't blink. Didn't apologize. Didn't explain. I reached into my coat. Pulled out a folder. Slid it across the table. What's this? Your exit plan. Signed by both attorneys. I keep the house. You keep the Lexus, your gym equipment, and the personal account you opened under your maiden name. Now she blinked. You went through my. You left it open. I didn't snoop. You stopped hiding. Jessa looked down. The quiet stretched. I stood up. You were done. You said so yourself. I'm just giving us both the courtesy of moving forward. I didn't mean it like this, she said softly. No, I replied. You meant it quietly. I just decided not to be quiet anymore. And I walked out. After River and Rye, I thought it would end there. Clean break. Signed papers. No drama. But women like Jessa don't like losing the last word. And she sure as hell doesn't like losing control. The next morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Straight to voicemail. Then a second. Then a text. This is Claire. Jessa's sister. Can you call me? Claire and I hadn't talked in over a year. The last time I saw her, she was whispering with Jessa in the kitchen and eyeing me like I was the reason her sister looked tired. Now she wanted to talk. I texted back. Everything all right? She replied. She's not doing well. My first instinct was to roll my eyes. Jessa wasn't doing well. I'd been sleeping on a $49 mattress in a studio apartment above a thrift store. But then Claire added. She showed up at Mom's in tears. Locked herself in the bathroom. Said she didn't see it coming. Didn't see it coming. She said she was done. She said it to someone else, when she thought I wasn't listening. But fine. Let her play the shocked ex-wife. Later that night, my phone buzzed again. This time, Jessa. First time since the cafe. I let it go to voicemail. She didn't leave one. A minute later, a text. Noah. I just want to understand. When did you stop being the man I knew? I stared at the screen. That line hit different. Not because it hurt. But because it was such a perfect summary of how little she'd noticed me for years. So I wrote back. Just one message. Maybe I didn't stop. Maybe you just stopped looking. She didn't answer. Not that day. Not the next. But something in that silence felt final. Not cold. Not angry. Just, finished. And so I moved on. Not like in the movies. No dramatic reinvention montage. No rebound romance. Just slow steps back to myself. I started sketching again. I'd always liked drawing, back in college. But somewhere between marriage and taxes, I forgot what holding a pencil felt like. So I picked up a cheap pad from the office supply store and started sketching at night, scenes from cafes, strangers on park benches, light coming through a dirty window. Nothing special. But mine. One evening, I stopped at a diner 2 blocks from my apartment. I ordered coffee, sat near the window, and opened my notebook. And that's when I met Sloane. She wasn't a waitress. She was in the next booth. Reading. She noticed my sketches, leaned over slightly, and said. You draw like you're trying not to disappear. I looked up, surprised. I guess I am, I said. We talked. About art. Silence. The weird smell of motel lobbies. Nothing deep. Nothing dramatic. But it felt easy. Safe. Over the next few weeks, I saw her around. Sometimes in the diner. Sometimes in the little bookstore I started going back to. We never exchanged numbers. It was just, gentle. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like a person again. Not a husband. Not a placeholder. Just Noah. Then, of course, Jessa broke the silence. One afternoon, I opened my inbox and saw an email from her. Subject, misunderstanding. I almost deleted it. But curiosity won. It read. The man you saw that night wasn't what you think. His name is Mason. He's my therapist. I didn't tell you because I thought you'd think it meant I was broken. There was never anything between us. He had the door code because I'd been skipping sessions and he was checking in. That's all. I sat with that email for a long time. Not because I believed it. But because, part of me wanted to. But even if it was true, even if nothing ever happened physically, it didn't change the emotional truth. She gave another man her story. She gave him access, the kind of access I hadn't had in years. She didn't let me help her. She didn't let me in. So I replied. If you had said any of this when I was still in the house, maybe we'd be having a different conversation. But you waited until you lost control. I'm not angry, Jessa. I just don't live there anymore. Not physically. Not emotionally. She didn't answer. This time, her silence felt like surrender. 2 days later, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a photo. Us. At a campsite 5 years ago. I was holding a marshmallow stick. She was laughing, really laughing. Head back, eyes closed. On the back, in her handwriting. It was real. I'm sorry I let it go. I didn't cry. I didn't frame it. I slid it into the back of my sketchbook, behind the pages where I'd drawn a life without her. And I moved on. A week passed. Then another. And just like that, it was fall. The leaves in Boulder lit up like fire, but my world felt quieter. Like the flames had already burned and all that was left was ash and air. No texts from Jessa. No random calls. No late-night drive-bys. It was like she finally understood. I wasn't coming back. I'd rented a small place on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, one bedroom, creaky floors, no microwave. But it was mine. I'd sit on the floor with tea at night, sketch with the windows open, listen to the world without her voice cutting through it. And for the first time in years, I wasn't listening for footsteps or keys in the door. I was just listening to myself. Then, one Thursday evening, I got a call. From Margot. Yes. That Margot. The friend Jessa had been talking to on the phone when this all started. I didn't even have her number saved. She said. Noah, I hope this isn't out of line. But. Jessa doesn't know I'm calling. I said nothing. She continued. She wrote something. Weeks ago. A letter. She never sent it. I found it by accident. Anne. I think you should read it. I didn't respond. She added. I'm not doing this for her. I'm doing this because I watched you disappear in that marriage, and it wasn't fair. That part hit harder than it should have. I gave her a quiet, okay. 15 minutes later, she was outside my apartment. Just handed me an envelope, nodded once, and left. I didn't open it. Not that night. Not the next. It sat on my counter like a lit candle I wasn't ready to touch. Until Sunday. I poured coffee. Sat by the window. Opened the envelope. 6 handwritten pages. Ink smudged in places. Some words crossed out. Others underlined. Twice. And at the top, in her familiar handwriting. Noah, if you're reading this, it means Margot betrayed me. I hope she did. I read every word. How she felt trapped. Not by me, but by her own choices. How she pulled away hoping I'd fight for her, scream, chase, just to prove I still cared. And when I didn't, she took that as proof that I didn't. She wrote. I needed a confrontation. You gave me quiet. I mistook that for apathy. But it was just pain I hadn't earned the right to hear. She wrote about Mason, the therapist, and how she never crossed that line physically, but emotionally. I was gone, Noah. I handed him pieces of myself because I didn't know how to ask you to hold them anymore. She never asked me to forgive her. She just said. You were better than I ever deserved. I think that's why I tried to dim you, to feel less guilty about walking away. I folded the letter. Put it in the drawer. Didn't cry. Didn't rage. Because what do you do with a confession that's 2 years too late? You acknowledge it. You honor it. But you don't bleed for it. Not anymore. A few days later, I saw her car again. Parked across from my building. Engine off. Headlights dim. She didn't knock. Didn't text. Just sat there. Like she was waiting for a version of me that didn't live here anymore. After 10 minutes, she drove off. She did it again the next week. And the one after that. She wasn't stalking me. She was orbiting. Like a moon trying to recapture gravity that didn't want her anymore. I didn't stop her. But I didn't wave. Because sometimes, indifference is louder than rage. Then, just as I thought the story had found its final silence, she showed up in person. At Brooks & Company, the bookstore I now worked at part-time. I was restocking shelves when I looked up and saw her. Same hair. Same coat. But something in her eyes was different. Less sharp. More searching. Can we talk? She asked. I paused. Then nodded toward the bench outside. We sat. No coffee. No rain. No music. Just her breath and mine in the October air. She said. I didn't come to fix anything. Good, I replied. I've been doing the work. On yourself? I asked. She nodded. I thought you were weak when you walked away. I thought you'd come back crawling. But you didn't. You just left. And somehow that made me feel smaller than anything else ever could. I stayed quiet. She continued. I missed the version of us that used to laugh at dumb movies and make nachos at midnight. I missed the guy who knew how I took my coffee. And I hate that I only started appreciating him after he was gone. She looked at me. Really looked. Is there any version of this where we try again? I didn't pause. Didn't flinch. No. She blinked. That little twitch in her cheek, the one I used to see when she was about to cry but wouldn't let herself, returned. Okay, she whispered. She stood. Hands in pockets. She didn't hug me. Didn't beg. She just said. You really aren't the same man I left. I finally smiled. Exactly. And she walked away. After that last conversation outside the bookstore, I thought I'd feel triumphant. I didn't. I just felt still. Like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally exhaled. Jessa didn't message again. No texts. No parked cars across the street. Just absence. And for the first time, it felt like a gift. Not because I wanted her gone. But because I no longer needed her to stay. I went home and opened the drawer with the black notebook. The one that used to hold every piece of quiet pain. The timestamps. The moments. The clues I had ignored until they screamed. I took it out. Flipped through the pages. Page after page of me trying to make sense of someone else's silence. Trying to stay sane while my marriage quietly bled out. And then I did something I didn't plan. I tore them out. One by one. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. Just peace. I kept one page. Just one. It read. She said she was done. And for once, I believed her. And then, I became someone else. That part mattered. Because she didn't change me. She revealed me. The next week, I packed a small bag and drove west. No big plan. Just a map, a thermos of coffee, and a city I'd circled in a travel guide years ago but never visited. Ashford Bay. A coastal town no one talks about, but everyone falls in love with when they find it. I booked a 2-week stay at a converted boathouse near the docks. No TV. No Wi-Fi. Just gulls, sea air, and space. Each morning, I'd walk to a local cafe called The Bitter End, terrible name, incredible muffins, and sketch. One day, the barista, a woman named Lane, noticed my drawings. You always draw alone, she said. Is that a problem? I asked. She smiled. No. I just think some people need solitude like oxygen. You're one of them. She wasn't flirting. She was just observant. And I appreciated that more than I expected to. We talked more after that. Not about big things. Just real ones. She told me about growing up in a town where everyone knew your car by its sound. I told her about failing woodshop in 11th grade because I glued a ruler to the workbench. It wasn't romance. Not yet. It was recovery. On my last day in Ashford Bay, Lane handed me a note with my coffee. If you ever decide not to pass through, come back and stay a while. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just said. That's the kindest invitation I've ever gotten. And I meant it. Back home, I looked around my apartment and felt something unexpected. Wait. Not sadness. Not emptiness. Just the sense that this chapter had run its course. So I packed. Called my landlord. Gave notice. 3 weeks later, I moved to Ashford Bay. I didn't move for Lane. I moved for me. For the man I'd forgotten I could be. I found a rental above a bike shop. Started doing part-time design gigs for local businesses. Kept sketching. Some days I drew trees. Some days I drew hands. Some days I drew nothing at all and just walked by the water in quiet. And that was enough. One morning, I was sipping coffee on the back steps when I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just a simple cream envelope. Inside, a photo. Us. Me and Jessa. At a wedding, years ago. She's laughing. I'm looking at her like she hung the moon. On the back, scribbled in faint blue ink. This was real. I know that now. J. No anger. No plea. Just memory. I didn't cry. I didn't burn it. I didn't text her. I just slipped it inside the new notebook I'd started since moving here, one with clean pages and a leather cover that smelled like cedar. Because some stories don't need sequels. Just proper endings. That night, I walked down to the pier. Watched the tide roll in. Watched the boats rock gently like they had somewhere to be, even if they didn't. And I thought. She thought, I'm done, was the end of us. But really, it was the beginning of me.